Scenes here from the Intel Extreme Masters PyeongChang just moments ago here in the round of 8 as South Korea was felled by Poland's representative in Ilaza, and he moves on victoriously into the round of 4. That means he's bagged himself all the more dollars, that $150,000 prize pool, and will be representing Poland in that round of 4, potentially moving into the grand final later on tomorrow. Warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the studio. I am joined by Todd and Nathanius to get things going here once again, and we have more Zerg action, Todd, and this one's quite the belter indeed, because two big names, Scarlett going up against Serral.
Absolutely, Serral finally fulfilled the prophecy. He had been hyped as one of the best players for a long time. He just won a premier tournament not long ago. That was a week ago. So he's finally all of his work has come to fruition, and Scarlett's one of the best non-Korean players of all time, who's playing just incredible as of late. Playing in GSL Codes, one of the highest level tournaments out there, and actually advancing into the round of 16. So very excited for this one.
Yeah, some huge names, really. When you look at how they've been able to progress through their careers, and obviously the glory that Serral has.
It's the coolest part of the WCS system that's kind of built these players up over the years and providing these opportunities for them to represent their countries and compete across the globe. And I love how Todd put it, you know, the prophecy, because we talked about players like Serral, where, you know, it's like, look out for him. He'll be good in 2017. And we saw a bit of that, but now in 2018, we're seeing more of it in a laser especially. And that makes me excited for some of the other players that we've yet to see that'll be coming up. Guys like Kelazur, who started to have his meteoric rise last year and a great increase in performances. I can't wait to see how much further these players get over the years.
Actually,
it took a long time for Serral to finally win the tournament that we thought he should have won a long time ago, but was it a sight? And he did it in beautiful fashion as well.
Yeah, he definitely did. We can take a look at the schedule of all the games that are going to be coming throughout the day, because we do have a few more going on. And South Korea, as much as they are the big powerhouses of StarCraft 2, everything's not cut and dry just yet, with one of them falling out of the tournament. SOS could be in a little bit of jeopardy. Kelazur, in the past, has defeated some Koreans.
And I think it's worth mentioning that the StarCraft community at large, when this tournament bracket was announced, we looked at it and we said, there's a very high possibility that this becomes an SOS versus Zest finals. We expect the Korean players to outperform the majority of the other regions all the time. And it's just been a great shakeup to this tournament, because now everything's up in the air once again.
Definitely. All right, let's get hyped. Let's get prepared, because our next match is coming up here. It's going to be Canada here going up against Finland, with Scarlett, the Queen of Blades, having made her name synonymous with Zerg, is going to go up against our most recent WCS champion in Serral, the Finnish phenom, as I like to call him, because he has made his mark here on the StarCraft 2 scene.
Serral has been on a consistent rise, and I mean, as of late, I feel like he might just be getting to the next level, where we're going to be starting to call him the best non-Korean player. If he can win this one, if he can keep on posting the results that he's been posting, and much like for Ilaza, again, the potential for Serral, somebody like Serral, sky really is the limit, whereas Scarlett is more of a name that has been around for a long time at the highest of levels. She's had her up and down. Definitely feels like she's more of an on an up as of late, despite losing a little bit early in WCS Leipzig, advancing in Codes and doing as well as she has in this tournament. I really feel like Scarlett, she's looking at this tournament. I mean, it's only like what, 1 series today and 2 more tomorrow to give it everything. Why not? It's possible for her to win it.
Not that bad at all. But of course, Scarlett's opponent in StarCraft 2, the WCS, is the ultimate circuit throughout the year. And we have here our current WCS champion. It's Serral.
I'm from Finland, and I have lived here for my whole life. This city where I live from is very small. We have only 5,000 people, and you don't have too much stuff here. It's pretty much a countryside, so yeah, it's a small place, and I kind of like Finland because it's very quiet. People don't come to you and talk to you too much, and I like to be alone, so it fits me very well, and I like the weather of Finland as well. I got into StarCraft very randomly. We found a YouTube video after we got internet connection, which happened kind of late. I got the internet connection when I was about 10 years old, and we found the internet video on YouTube where we saw a big StarCraft 1 tournament.
Our journey with StarCraft started like late 2007 when we watched a documentary about World Cyber Games made by National Geographic. That made us interested in StarCraft and the competitive side of it. So we started playing, and then that's the start.
I think a pro gamer needs to be calm, because in a tournament environment you can get very nervous very easily. So it's very important to be calm. And also I think it's super important to be open to everything, because in this game you can get all kind of tips from everywhere, and if you are just trying it by yourself, not taking any notes from other players, it's very hard to improve. I think it's always good to look at other players' games, just be open to everything and try to be a hero yourself and make everything yourself.
StarCraft 2 on ollut vahvasti meidän elämässämme mukana pitkän aikaa. Ja se on varmasti vahvistanut paljon meidän välisiä suhteita poikien kanssa. Mutta me teemme paljon yhdessä myös muita asioita. Joonan menestystä on ollut nyt tosi upeata seurata, kun näkee, miten se kurinalainen harjoittelu ja työ, mitä se on kaikki tehnyt tässä vuosien saatossa, ne on tuottanut tulosta. Meillä tavataankin sanoa, että silloin täytyy takoa, kun rauta on kuuma.
I think for a pro gamer, you need to be very dedicated for your work. You can't just be playing one game or two games a day. You need to be very hardworking. StarCraft players get to travel all around the world, as we have tournaments pretty much everywhere. And I think that we have a solo game. It means that we don't really have anyone to talk to. So we kind of have to be friends with all the players. And I think we have a really good scene. So I think StarCraft players have a lot of good benefits. I also think we have a fairly good community, a very supportive one. I get a lot of messages from people who are supporting me, and I think it helps a lot as well.
Forged in the harsh wilderness of Finland is a player like StarCraft, a current WCS champion, very powerful indeed. A name that strikes fear into the hearts of many an opponent here.
The last Zerg player you want to go up against in a European tournament. And the heart and soul of the StarCraft scene, when you see that passion, that energy that he has to constantly improve, and recognizing that even though he's by himself, everybody around him is an opportunity and a tool for improving at the game.
Definitely one of my favorite videos here. Like, it's just so real, you know, you see him in his hometown and all that. And this goes to show that if you have a computer with internet and a dream, anything can happen, no matter where you're from. He lives in a 5,000 people village. He made it all the way here. It could be you. StarCraft is free to play nowadays. Just start training. You could be representing your country at the next big tournament. So definitely cool video here to learn about this.
Yeah, you definitely could be. So get yourself involved out there. Now, Todd, before we actually get into this series, I want to kind of take you over here, because I want to look at one of the first maps that we're going to be going to in this best of 5 between these two opponents. And what can you tell me about it?
I'm going to try to break down ZVZ for you guys, or Zerg versus Zerg.
Okay.
That's how we call it in our StarCraft lingo. So we're going to be playing on Acid Plant as our first map. And usually you start with the main starting buildings in these positions. And then from there you can expand over there and over there. And then there's always the question of where do you take your next base in between these two. So that's one of the dynamic that we're going to keep in mind. And with this building here, Zerg has a very interesting way to develop themselves, in that they produce every single unit out of this one building. They don't have additional production facilities. So it's either going to be building up their economy, or they're attacking units out of it. So they always have to make a choice and find the right balance. If you build too much economy, then you die to fighting units, and vice versa. So from there, the basic starting units, the melee unit, the first one that you see is going to be the Zergling. Usually you research speed. Those guys are very fast and mobile, but also very fragile, which leads into these guys. These guys make this one blow up very quickly and can kill a lot of them at once. So you need to be careful not to let that happen. If everybody stays alive and we still have a game on our hands after this phase, we'll head into the Roach. It's also a very basic unit that you can make early on. That is very strong. A lot of Zerg versus Zerg matchups, they will just stay in the Roach versus Roach phase just because this unit is that strong. It's very hard to evolve into anything else.
Right.
A lot of the time, somebody will just kind of die from that. Unless somebody wants to go into this flying unit, the Mutalics, very mobile, and you can do a lot with them. Kill the overlords of your opponent on the map, which are there for the scouting, giving you information and all that. But if nobody goes for a Mutalics, or even if they do, and usually they revert back to going to Roaches, then you have the Hydralisks, which then lead into Lurkers, which then leads into tier 3 units like the Vipers, the Ultralisks, and all these complicated units that you get later on in the game. Usually, Zerg versus Zerg has a tendency to be pretty quick and resort mostly to these 3 only. But with how good these 2 players are, we could be seeing all of these guys. So just watch out for them, the transitions that they do, and I'm sure our casters will do a good job of explaining what's happening with those transitions.
Thank you very much, my friend, as we need to head over to the commentary team, in fact, as well, to see what their thoughts are going to be going into this Zerg versus Zerg. I'm joined by Nick Tasteless Plot, as well as Jared Pigkrettel. Did I say that wrong? I'm pretty sure I did.
I was close enough. It was almost there.
I'm a terrible man. I'm a terrible man. I'm sorry. But this Zerg versus Zerg, again, 2 big names of the Western scene going to be butting heads here. That they don't get much opportunity to play against one another, but they're very formidable.
Certainly, and I feel like this is one of the most difficult matches to really pick a favorite. Scarlett, I think, has been dominant for longer and been more consistent. Actually, I wouldn't even say consistent, steadily improving, but the fact that Serral coming into this with a huge win right off the bat is something that simply cannot be ignored.
Yeah, I mean, Serral has just been in great form right now. If both players had a couple of stats on a sheet, right now Serral's would be higher, but you can't count out those sort of intangible things, the experience, just the sheer amount of years that Scarlett's been competing. She's got a lot of skills up her sleeve.
Yeah, and with Serral riding that high of that WCS championship, he's got to be feeling good here, Pig, going into this.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off at one of the biggest wins of his career, indeed the biggest win of his career, and he hasn't looked shaky in the earlier stages of this tournament. It's looked almost like a breeze for Serral.
Yep.
So this is really the first big challenge for him up against Scarlett. Is he going to be able to take on, a player who's going to throw some curveballs at him and give him a bit more of that challenge?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time now to head over to our next round of 8 match. Scarlett from Canada goes up against Serral from Finland here at the Intel Extreme Masters PyeongChang.
And we will now begin our best of 5 between Scarlett and Serral, a mirror matchup, Zerg versus Zerg. Either of these 2 players have a very good shot of actually winning the entire Intel Extreme Masters here in PyeongChang. The fact that we only have 1 Korean remaining, SOS, who I think is somebody who could be taken out. These 2 players have a very big shot, and whoever comes out on top here is going to completely change the way that we're going to be looking at this tournament, because I think both of them are big favorites.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlett comes in, I think, as someone who's a fan favorite for anyone who's been following StarCraft over the years. But Serral has slowly been grinding away, building up to his recent months of success, making it through to his first WCS championship. And now here, whoever comes out of this series victorious, I would say is potentially even a favorite to win the whole thing. Personally, if I had to bet, I was saying, look, guys, I think Serral is actually the favorite going into this tournament. He is so good in the matchups that he's facing off against here.
I am completely torn between these 2. As somebody casting a GSL, and I've been following Scarlett for a long time, as she's been pursuing her career here in Korea, it's really exciting to see her here now. But against Serral, who's been so dominant, it's a tough call. Anyways, introducing our players down in the bottom right, in the blue, from Canada, she is Scarlett. And her opponent here in the upper left, in the red, from Finland, he is vs.Serral.
And we are going to be spawning in here on Acid Plant, a map we've been seeing quite a lot of throughout this tournament, and is going to offer up quite a few aggressive opportunities as it unfolds. It's quite a defensible map, you know, it's a reasonably long rush distance, but as you get out to taking a 4th and maybe even a 5th base, that's where you're just so spread out. We can see the view panning just from the 2 potential 3rd bases that Todd was pointing out earlier. And it's just such a long distance, wide ramps, lots of avenues to attack from. So definitely do agree with his analysis that there's a good chance this one's just going to finish on the Roach vs. Roach stage. It's going to be tricky to force it into that later game.
Certainly, I think you're right. We will see if it does go to a late game. And both these players do have really solid foundational handling of a long, drawn-out game, but it's tricky in a mirror matchup, Zerg versus Zerg. It can be tough to actually get to that point in time, as there's so much explosivity early on in the matchup. If you make 1 or 2 mistakes when controlling your army, you can immediately lose half or even all your units right off the bat. So going into this match, we're getting a quick shot in-game here of Scarlett, kind of exhibiting just how fast you actually have to play in order to keep up in a game like StarCraft. They're going to be scouting each other out and trying to get a read on what direction the opposing player is trying to bring this game to. Of course, when you're both starting out at the same race, you can start out, you can tech to the same unit. So it's interesting to see the techniques used to try to outmaneuver players by showing them certain numbers of units at different points to maybe make it look like there's less than you actually have because you've hidden units elsewhere. Also, you know that with your initial overlord for your supply, you can scout with that, but of course that can't see everywhere. So sometimes you'll give some things away while trying to hide stuff elsewhere. And it looks like this time around, we're actually going to have, I believe it's Scarlett now taking her 3rd base right away. And one of those 2 locations, and that is a big decision, which of those 2 locations you're going to take. And I believe Serral's now coming down here to attack just that.
Yeah, Serral's view here as well might be a little bit dizzying watching the first-person view for any new viewers, because it is just a game which you can play so incredibly fast. These players have memorized their actions down to the T, and they're actually constantly adapting throughout the match here. So we can see him just microing back those Zerglings, harassing the 3rd base. He's going to be pulling those back, but you'll notice he constantly bounces home and keeps spending his money and building new units there as well. Both players have taken a 3rd base. Of course, Scarlett going for what would I say is the more standard 3rd in the horizontal position. Serral going for his that's kind of pushed out into the center of the map a little bit deeper.
Okay, so this one Zergling here from Serral has managed to come in and scout the main base of Scarlett. Of course, everything else was also scouted as well. Now looping back around here. It's important to try to count how many attacking units do you see versus workers. Of course, since all units with Zerg do come from the same starting structure, the hatchery, if they're making one thing, they're not making another. So that's one way to get a good read in this matchup. Now Serral trying to poke in here to check if there are any stray drones to try to attack as Scarlett sets up a defensive position.
Yeah, already a 3rd queen is out. Scarlett taking up the defensive stance. She wants to just try to hang on and build up a larger worker count. Serral probes in, sees the defense is strong, and just pulls back. He says, there's no way I'm breaking through just yet. But he wants to maintain this control over the map. He wants to apply pressure, not only to try and force mistakes from Scarlett, but also to scout. We saw that Zergling in Scarlett's base earlier. This is something you always see in Serral's play, is he finds a way to get Zerglings past your defenses and scout your base. And that's why Serral always has such a good idea of exactly what his opponent's up to. Here we go. He's looking for it right now. He wants to see what's going on in that main base. Scarlett trying to wall off. She wants to block it, but the Zerglings are going to get in, and they're going to see a very fast lair from Scarlett.
Okay, now seeing that tech with that quick scout is going to be very frustrating for Scarlett. That doesn't mean that Scarlett will necessarily lose, but in a game of incomplete information like StarCraft, if you can get a glimpse to what they are doing, you can usually try to hammer together a response. So we're going to have to see how the instincts of Scarlett pan out here, because she knows that Serral is easily one of the best players in the world. She might have to try to decide and predict how exactly he's going to respond, because we have very opposite tech trees coming up here. One player going for more ground play with Roach Warrens. The other one, Scarlett in this case, going for air tech here, so going for an air army.
Yeah, going to be going into that spy attack for the Mutalisks, and that's going to move it away from the standard Roach versus Roach war fight that we like to see. This is something Scarlett loves to do. She's even got a +1 melee upgrade, so she's going to be investing heavily in Zerglings, Banelings, and Mutalisks, a very out there mobility focused style. She's not going to have as hard hitting an army, but she's going to have the speed advantage. She's already gotten a few good Baneling trades earlier on. She's going to come in here with some aggression. Great spreads on her Zerglings, but the Baneling still finds a very neat detonation. Serral looking to hang on with his drone line, has already lost 4 or 5 workers. Does end up defending in the end, but a nice bit of damage for Scarlett.
Yeah, I have to say, though, Serral did do a very good job defending. It seems like the tech pattern that Scarlett is going for is going to have a very specific place right in the mid-game, and Scarlett has to try to utilize that. A lot of counter-attacking, a lot of trying to keep Serral pinned back at home, where Terran is, excuse me, not Terran, for Serral is going for a much more muscular play that can't really be utilized until later on in the game.
The Zerglings of Scarlett chasing Serral's back on the map. Serral continuing to build up the Roach count, is going in for Hydralisk tech as well as a second evolution chamber. So it looks like Roaches and Hydralisks, a very meaty, slow army, and Serral does indeed scout the Spire. Just as the Mutalisks are popping, we see Spore Crawlers going down in response. So Serral, now realizing that Scarlett's invested in the air tech, has to try and turtle up, but the 4th base cancelled there. Scarlett doing a very good job to slow down Serral's build-up, and now she's got to try and harass him. She's going to try and find the chinks in his armor because she's got speed on her side. She's got these hard-hitting units. If she can find a way into his economy, that's where she gets a big advantage.
Okay, Scarlett now coming in here. It seems like Serral at least has the bare minimum of defense so that Scarlett can't be too abusive in this position. It's important that Serral try to hang on. Now, while Scarlett has Serral pinned inside of his base, she's going to try to expand again. And in a matchup where you're both playing the exact same race, getting that extra expansion is tremendously important. Meanwhile, Scarlett's also wedging this group of Mutalisks in between the 2 bases to try to cut off armies from merging together, because Serral ideally wants to have his army really grouped up, so when he does get in a big fight with that air army from Scarlett, he'll be able to take it head on.
Yeah, these Mutalisks just finding whatever damage they can. And these Hydralisks in small numbers not really able to fight against them too well. The Mutalisk just going to take that fight head on. Scarlett very ballsy with this Mutaplay. Does take out 3 of those Hydras, but a few Mutalisks do fall. And as the Carapace upgrades kick in for Serral, that's going to make those Hydralisks much more resistant to these Mutalisk attacks. The Mutalisk attacks do bounce off their initial target, dealing extra to the next few guys next door as well. Now, but Scarlett just wants to keep that Hydralisk count very low.
Keep in mind that the next phase here is if Serral tries to attack out, Scarlett may go in for a counterattack. That's why we just saw this army moving out now. But that army initially was placed up there in the upper right in case Serral got a little bit too greedy and thought he could counterattack. And by the way, Scarlett actually, with the 5th base being acquired here, this is quite an ambitious play. But it so far seems to be working fairly well, as we haven't seen Serral able to quite break out yet. But there will be an inevitable moment that Serral will have a moment to break out on the map and try to do this push. And it's very important Scarlett either counterattack so much that Serral is punished, or that she is able to overwhelm and crush Serral's army because she's gotten these additional expansions and there has more of an income coming up here.
A 2-pronged assault comes in there. A ton of Zerglings actually on the north side off camera. Did go down to a few defensive Banelings from Serral. But Scarlett there, unfortunately, not quite finding the angle. She's running Banelings in here as well. Doesn't find the hits. She wanted to take out all the workers in that mineral line, but Serral's defense is spot on. Scarlett's whole game plan is not long-term. She is not focused on the later stages. She's going for a hard-hitting mobile army, and she wants to knock Serral down using those extra bases that she took. So she's trying to say, you know what, this isn't about me getting the better army, it's about me just overwhelming you with tons of stuff. But if she lets Serral build up the right combination of units, he's going to be able to block that.
And it seems like he's actually going to move out right now. So this is, in some sense, the climax here of this game, as now Serral barreling down towards this fresh base. It looks like Scarlett's going to try to have a small counterattack, mostly ineffective, though. And now going back to this big fight up here, it seems like Serral's poked out, done the damage, and is now going to regroup and decide for another location to possibly attack.
Yeah, a lot of these counterattacks being defended. Serral's main army does take out the 5th here at the front, but he doesn't have a great economy behind it. Serral's looking a little bit desperate. His +2 carapace upgrade is almost finished. That's going to add a lot of a boost to this army. Scarlett says, no way am I fighting your lurkers. I'm just going to counterattack with everything. Pulls back the Zerglings. The Mutalist's trying to snipe down that Baneling in the back. It does end up getting a decent detonation. The Spore Crawl is just being focused down. Tasteless, I think we're going to see a base trade.
It seems like, yeah, they're both destroying each other's bases. This is a race to who could finish each other off last here. We come back now and see that Scarlett is going to return back and try to defend this. Now, it's Serral on 2 bases to the 3 bases of Scarlett at this point in time. Does Scarlett have enough Mulists to actually take on these Hydralisks head on? It appears she may have this, and this may in fact cost Serral the game.
That is so many Mutalisks, Tasteless. There's still 16 standing strong at the end of this engagement. Serral's army is completely destroyed, and with the 3rd base still mining, Scarlett's got the superior income. She's got the Mutalisk flock still out there threatening. Serral's going to try to rally across the map, but this is desperation for the Finnish Zerg.
And I got to say, very technical play here by Scarlett, identifying that she would not win a ground fight, but she could continue to try to stack on more air control here and shut Serral down, as we saw there. GG. Game number 1 goes to Scarlett.
Fantastic play from the Canadian, showing that class is indeed permanent. She's been to the top of many tournaments, and whilst this young Finn's form has looked like he is one of the best Zergs in the world recently, not quite able to keep up with that very crazy strategy. I mean, I love the style from Scarlett. A lot of players just say, you know what, we're going to try and focus on a very front-on game. But Scarlett said, I am just going to take so many bases so quickly. I'm going to swap into those Mutalisks and just use the mobility. And even though Serral was defending quite well, he just never established that 4th base. And I felt like Scarlett just had more stuff than him. You know, she used the mobility. She never attacked into the wrong position. She was very patient. And when he pushed out on the map, she seemed to just kind of surround and overwhelm.
It was really interesting to see that within all those skirmishes that really unfolded quite quickly, she was able to pick off that 3rd base, which meant that the pressure was really on for Serral to do basically double the damage that Scarlett had inflicted. And it seemed like it was initially working, but because she had grown so much on the map, and it was really so many territories that Serral would have to try to wipe out before he could even out the fight, she was able to assemble an army that would completely wipe out anything that Serral had remaining. And it was a very, very impressive game. Now, I don't know if our other games are going to look like that. That was quite a unique situation to see 2 players trading locations and hitting each other that hard with opposite unit compositions. A lot of times we see it's two players going for roaches, going for ground armies, and trying to out position each other there and utilize ramps or valleys, anything like that. All right, we're actually ready now to go into game number 2. Again, if you're just now joining us, this is a best of 5, Scarlett versus Serral. In the upper left, in the blue, from Canada, she is Scarlett. And her opponent here in the bottom right in the red, from Finland, he is Serral.
I like what you're saying there, Nick. I think that last game was definitely a special snowflake. It was not the same sort of style that you're going to repeat over and over, and I think Scarlett definitely playing there into the expectations of Serral. A lot of players, you know, they'll get a few Mutalisks out for a bit of sky control, force some anti-air defense, and go back into roaches. But Scarlett just kept building Mutalisks. And
yeah, she doubled down.
She found that sweet spot in between the Spore Crawlers. She kept picking off those Hydralisks, the first anti-air units when they came out, and she seemed to just spiral out of control from there. You know, it's this narrow tipping point in those sort of engagements where you've got enough Hydralisks and you just knock the Mutalisks out of the sky, but Scarlett got that edge, she ran with it very quickly, and if there's one player who very rarely gives up an advantage when she's ahead, it is Scarlett. She's a player who, if she gets away with building a few more workers or doing a bit of damage to you, she always just jumps forward to the next step of the game and always seems to be one step ahead.
I've noticed this about Scarlett, especially over the past year. I guess I should say starting in 2017 especially, but she's very comfortable with that mid-game play, using the Mutalisk to try to really tactically outmaneuver her opponent. It's not so much that she gets those units just for the idea that the player has to respond with their own units to that, getting Hydralisk in that case. Instead, she's really able to, even if they've had the proper compositional response, she's able to hit at so many different angles and force, in this case, Serral, to be so honest about his position and how much defense he really has. It's quite taxing for him. And we saw how much extra time Scarlett was able to eke out because of that. And that's why she was able to get up not one but two bases before Serral finally felt stable enough to move out on the map.
Forcing a more diverse sort of gameplay in that last one. You're gonna have to see what Scarlett has in store already, actually, with a very quick lair going down here in the main base. Even, oh my gosh, that is so fast.
Wow, interesting tech choice here.
That's going to be, yeah, just straight into Evo and Roachmore. I think Scarlett here looking to wall off. She's skipped Zergling speed, so she's going to build a wall at her front. And combined with the Queens, they can plug any gap in that wall. And that's going to defend any sort of rush or aggression from Serral. And the aim is to just go into Roaches very quickly behind it. So Scarlett might just skip upgrades on this Evolution Chamber. No, already getting +1 range. This is going to be such fast Roach speed and +1 range. She could hit a fierce timing attack off this opening.
That's right. You know, it's so important when you're in a series of StarCraft. There's a reason why we make them play a best-of-5 and we don't have one game and then we decide who moves on. Whoa, hold up. I'll get to that idea in a second.
They always get in.
Serral always gets in with
How
this.
does he do this every single game?
We just caught at the last second that these links popped in. By the way, Scarlett knows that Serral's going to try to do this, but he's apparently good enough at just maneuvering that he gets in.
Every single time.
So again, he wants more.
Yeah.
We'll get a pretty good scout early on to get a read on what Scarlett's up to.
But he stays in there so long as well, right? And this just tells him, look, he even sees the Roaches pop out. He said, look, I know you're teching fast. I know you're going Roaches right now, which means you're not going Mutalisks. This gives Serral all the information he needs, and StarCraft is a game that is all about information. The more you have, the more educated your decisions. Remember, guys, Serral has to gone for the fast third base. He's going to have a larger economy, but Scarlett's got the faster upgrades here. She's put a lot of money into it, and she's actually already pushing out of the map with 2 Queens right now with a lot of energy. They can back up an assault with Transfuse and a ton of Roaches with Roach speed and the +1 range upgrade coming across the map. This is going to hit well before Serral's upgrades kick in.
Okay, this may puncture the heart of Serral in this game if he's not able to hold it off. And this is going to be actually a pretty scary rush coming out here. We even see Queens coming that are sent down here for additional support. Now, Scarlett is not going to attack the third, but instead going to go to the second base, which would be the center territorially here for Serral. Now, Serral seems to have mustered up enough, but keep in mind this attack upgrade is about to finish. We see Scarlett regrouping here, but Serral actually with a pretty good position over here on the high ground, making it a little bit tougher for Scarlett to push up.
Great transfuses, though, from Scarlett, healing those Roaches that were getting focused on the front. Only 1 or 2 Roaches from Scarlett has fallen, and she's managed to break the defensive position. Serral being forced to pull workers into the front of the fight. He can afford to lose a bunch of those right now since he's got such a bigger economy, but he needs to hang on right here, right now, and it looks like his defense is crumbling. His +1 upgrade still has not finished just yet, and Scarlett is relentless.
We've already seen 13 workers taken out. Anytime you see workers using a fight, that's never a good thing. It shows you the desperation that Serral has to try to hold on in this position. Additional forces spill in now for Scarlett, who seems to be able to hold this position in the center of Serral's second base, the middle of the territory that he has at the bottom center of the map.
This is such a fierce and surprising assault from Scarlett, coming in and catching Serral unawares. Even after spotting the fast tech with the Zerglings, he couldn't believe an attack would hit him this early in the game. This is such a creative strategy.
That's it, GG.
Wow.
Fast and furious. Scarlett takes game number 2. Really good mix-up and strategies. I was talking about this earlier, but then we saw Serral run in there with the scout, and we had to talk about this. But you know, if you're going to win a best-of-5 in StarCraft 2, you have to have a variety of strategies, and you have to know how to mix it up and be hard to read. Otherwise, a good player will just simply adapt and then overcome you in each follow-up game. But Scarlett, this time around, stopping the game before it ever really got to start with that really nice rush. And this means Scarlett now has a 2-0 lead over Serral. Serral just recently a StarCraft 2 champion. He is going to have to bounce back 3-0, or his story ends here now.
Yeah, this is such a hard position for a competitor to be in. And really, I mean, it just comes down to Scarlett's play. Her execution has been flawless, her build choices have been great, and it's such a different Scarlett to what we saw yesterday. She looked good yesterday, but she looked a little bit tired. She said she'd woken up really early in the morning, hadn't slept well, and she said in her interview at the end of her match yesterday, look, I wasn't feeling my best today, but I knew if I could just make it through, tomorrow is going to be a different Scarlett. I'm going to feel a lot better, a lot stronger, and she's really showing it here. She was not the favorite going into this match. I think most people would have said maybe 60-40 Serral, maybe even more tilted towards Serral, but Scarlett, she's showing she has got what it takes.
Well, Scarlett's practice has really paid off. Of course, she still does have to win one more game. A player like Serral is capable of re-engineering his builds, his approach, and his engagements, and possibly coming back. We are now going to go into game number 3, Scarlett versus Serral. In the bottom right, in the blue, from Canada, she is Scarlett. And her opponent in the red, in the upper left, from Finland, he is Serral. So, right off the bat, we have a very interesting choice here by Serral.
I mean, this is the rush map. If you're going to go for a fast spawning pool, this is it. Of course, the spawning pool, what enables you to build Zerglings, your fighting units, and Serral has built it as his absolute first thing. Meanwhile, Scarlett opting for an expansion, already taking her hatchery on such a small map. This is a disaster, and I think this really speaks about Scarlett's mindset in this series. So far, she's been throwing curveballs at Serral. She's been surprising him at every turn, and he hasn't been able to respond. Here, even though she's up 2-0, she says, you know what, let's take a risk. I think you're going to play kind of safe in your opening. I'm going to play this very greedy expansion. And I mean, Serral's build is perfect to counteract this. He's going to come across the map here with a bunch of early Zerglings, and they're going to look for some big damage, Nick.
That's right. We have these Zerglings moving out now across the map, and with Scarlett electing to go for a more econ opener, really focusing on getting more minerals and gas, where Serral is opening for a rush, there's really not much that Serral can do to hold this for now. And this means that Serral is going to have some brilliant control. Excuse me, Scarlett's going to have some brilliant control as Serral's rushing here. Or she is going to be in a lot of trouble. Of course, it is still a best of 5, so if she loses, she has an opportunity in Game 4, possibly Game 5, to try to come back there.
I like this decision from Scarlett. Just going to let the hatchery go down. Says, look, at least this will distract those Zerglings. I'll take it. I don't mind losing that hatchery. I'm not going to pull drones down there to defend. I just need to get up more Zerglings and try to re-secure that expansion in the follow-up. Notice how Scarlett still has a 4-worker lead right now, which means, yeah, she's got more economy. The problem is Serral's expansion is almost ready back at home, and that's where he's going to start to explode into the economy. So this next 30 or 40 seconds is crucial. Scarlett needs to get that expansion back up right now. Every second it's delayed is huge, and that's where Serral's advantage is going to grow.
And we see that drone moving out here.
It's blocked by the queen.
She needs to move that.
Okay, you know, she realizes after a few seconds.
Yeah, it's very important. Every second is critical here. Okay, so she's now reclaiming her second base. The second base for Serral just now operational with a few drones mining. Certainly there'll be a few more added in a little bit.
What does Serral always do, Nick?
What?
He always slides 2 Zerglings into the main.
Third time.
Every single time.
In a row, yeah.
He's a magician.
So he's scouting this now. He identifies the tech here from Scarlett. It will be the Roach Warren. Only taxing Scarlett even further here is, again, she's been spotted as far as what her plans are this game. Then again, in game 1 and 2, it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah. Zerglings are coming in here for Scarlett, doing a good little bit of harassment pressure. Do get one drone. They almost got the second, but a nice save from Serral. And he's going to start taking his own gases as well. At the end of all of this, the pressure has kind of died down. Scarlett with a great queen block on that ramp, not letting those Zerglings of Scarlett get in there. Very nicely done.
So we're still waiting for this hatchery to finish up over here for Scarlett. Any attempts by Scarlett to really get in whether it was really to scout or to do any impressive amount of damage, have been thwarted here by Serral, who's slowly taking up behind this. The worker count is now 28-30, so Scarlett still with not a major lead, but certainly a little bit more workers here. Now we have to wait and see, as this game is beginning to calm down a little bit, how will Serral handle this with, I think, a fairly good opener to start things off.
I'm definitely got a little bit of momentum early, but Scarlett's done a good job of trying to put some pressure back on the Finn. And she has managed to stay even on workers while getting her own Roach Warren down as well. So I actually kind of like Scarlett's position now, just calmly dealing with the pressure. And look at that pullback! Mineral walking that drone. So that, of course, whenever you click on the minerals, your workers will just path through the other units. Pulled her other workers to body block those Zerglings, kept it alive with just a fraction of its hit points left. And yeah, I mean, Scarlett, her defense has been great. She's got her third base down. She's down a little bit in workers, but a lot more drones about to pop out. So this is definitely going to go into a longer game.
So we have Queens now moving down here to Scarlett's third base. It is still Serral on 2 bases. This has been a theme here with these 2 players. Scarlett, at least especially in game 1, seems to grow or be more comfortable growing at a faster rate, where Serral is more focused a lot of times on getting a robust army. Game 2 was really the exception to that, but I think that's why that strategy worked for Scarlett in game 2, is because it threw Serral off.
We definitely see Scarlett here trying to force strange games, and he even gets the cancel. That's big.
So Scarlett forcing that expansion to cancel and then start over again. That's lost time for Serral. And keep in mind, Scarlett already has her third base up and running here, which puts a little bit of pressure on Serral to try to come up with a solution, come up with something in order to begin to get a lead of his own. Because right now, if I'm Serral, I'm probably feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the direction this game is going, with Scarlett growing at such a scary rate.
Yeah, you can see his drones are already long-distance mining, so Serral wanting to invest in economy, but these drones aren't really paying for themselves. It's going to take them forever just to mine a couple of handfuls of minerals. Of course, when that hatchery finishes, it'll speed up, but that is a while away, and that is why the cancel was so powerful. Scarlett is committing everything to Roaches right now, Nick. She hasn't really put many drones on her third base, so despite showing the fast third, she's massing up Roaches, but there is actually an Overlord on the high ground here, an Overseer, that spotted those Roaches on the move out. So these Roaches coming across the map, this is a fierce attack. She is looking to overwhelm the Finnish player. She wants to close this out 3-0.
And I think on some level, if Serral was trying to hammer together a decent economy in this game of catch-up, this immediate push coming out here from Scarlett is a real threat. And we want to see where exactly Scarlett decides to direct that. It seems like the area she wants to attack it over here is fairly well defended, so she's actually going to loop back around here, instead going down through this valley where there is not maybe the same level of defense. But again, Serral seems to be ready.
Serral with perfect positioning there, and he does have an 11 worker lead behind this, so I mean, I thought that attack was going to work, to be honest, but then you suddenly realize 4 queens at the front, so many transfusers and the spine crawler.
That's right.
And you're like, okay, Serral knows how to defend with just a couple of tools to boost that up, and now we see the army values closing. We see Serral's like, hey, I've got a bigger economy than you. I got my +2 range on the way. And he's actually going to go into the tunneling claws upgrades for those Roaches. So burrow and tunneling claws will allow him to harass Scarlett from many different angles, burrowing those Roaches underground and then popping them up underneath her workers and sniping down the economy.
I was on the exact same page as you. I thought that attack from Scarlett trying to hit Serral was going to be more effective, but it should be noted that the moment that Scarlett identified it wasn't going to work, she squeezed out 15 more workers to try to keep a lead in that sense, and that's why it's now 54 workers to 63 with Scarlett in the lead with those 63 workers. And now she is back to trying to get a more robust army. And this may be a game that comes down now to who can actually control a 4th base, as they've both been on 3 bases for some time.
Great dodging here by Serral. Of course, these Ravagers trying to use their corrosive bile ability to shoot down the Overlords of Serral, knock his map vision off, but he keeps on dodging that. Even though it's a very slow unit, it's very hard to dodge, and it looks like it will start to take a few hits, but not quite going down. And the Roaches for Serral now pushing out onto the map. Army supply is very similar for both players, but Serral, he wants to get in position to start this tunneling claw harassment. He's got a lot of Roaches coming down that right flank right now.
Okay, it seems like Scarlett's aware of that, and she's going to try to preempt this. Meanwhile, a big attack over here in the center left. I'm not sure if Serral will be able to push through. If we can get a shot back of that harass attack real fast. Right now, Serral hitting, I believe it's 3 different locations. Yes, at once. Scarlett will have to hold off all 3 of these attacks or possibly risk falling apart.
These roaches actually tunneling Claude underneath to get on top of the Ravagers there. Serral trying to overwhelm Scarlett in 3 locations. Back in the natural, it looks like he's finally being defended. The main base, the Roaches and Ravagers trying to hunt them down, but Serral looks like he's overwhelming the front at the same time. Scarlett being forced to pull her units back to the front, and that is a disaster because at the same time in the main base, Serral is unburrowing his Roaches, he's running them around, he's getting an extra drone here or there. Scarlett's fighting desperately to hang on.
I have to say, it's really impressive, the multitasking that Serral has here as he's forking out armies into different locations. Really, it's like Scarlett is trying to play a game of catch-up. It's a game of cat and mouse as Serral scrambles across various parts of the interior base of Scarlett, continuing to kill off workers one by one. And while this is all happening, at the very top center of the map, we see that Serral has already expanded again, putting Scarlett in a very, very difficult position. She is behind in workers and she is behind in bases. And I believe overall the army supply is smaller. So this is going to be pretty tricky now for Scarlett to try to come back, especially if Serral decides to keep this pressure on.
Total of 19 workers going down throughout these last minute or 2 of chaos in Scarlett's bases. She is up in army supply right now. She's actually recovered a lot of the drones she lost. So hats off to Scarlett. A lesser player would have crumbled underneath that pressure, trying to defend all of those mineral lines while defending the frontal assault. Not an easy task, but she does manage to do it. And she's got the 4th base going down. She's not too far behind in supply. If she can hang on to her economy and stop the next wave, she might be able to equalize here.
This is interesting. We may have Scarlett try to push up now and actually intercept this army from Serral that's trying to come down.
Oh, all the Ravagers caught in the front, though. So many going down.
Yeah, badly positioned army here by Serral. Does he still have enough to try to break through, though? It seems like as the army here for Serral arcs around, it should be able to gobble up the army of Scarlett. And with that happening, GG, Serral begins his comeback, winning game number 3. Making this 2-1 in the favor of Scarlett. But if Serral can win the next 2 games, he will close us out. Of course, Scarlett just needs one more victory to advance.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't mind taking a risk there in the opening stages. Hats off to the Canadian Zerg for actually defending as well as she did. That was, of course, 12 pool versus Hatchery first to start things out. Never an easy situation for the defensive player.
We are going to go to a short break. We come back. We'll continue on with Scarlett versus Serral here at the Intel Extreme Masters in PyeongChang.